My greedy mother-in-law demanded an extra $10,000 for shopping. When I refused, she hit me hard with a baseball bat. I fell to the floor, shocked and in pain, while my husband stood there, doing nothing to stop her. That night, I was filled with anger and decided to leave the house. I was determined to get revenge. The next morning, I had a big surprise waiting for both of them. My name is Anna, and this is my story. It started in a world full of dreams but quickly turned into a nightmare. At 30, I was an online entrepreneur living in Dallas, Texas. I earned about $40,000 a month and worked from me, setting my own schedule. To outsiders, my life might have seemed perfect, but behind closed doors, I was stuck in a toxic marriage with my husband, Mark, and his controlling mother, Linda. Mark and I met in college. We were both ambitious and hopeful, dreaming of a bright future together. We got married 3 years ago, thinking our love could overcome any challenge. But reality hit hard when Mark lost his job about 8 months ago. At first, I didn't mind supporting us. After all, I had built my business from scratch. But as time went on, the burden of paying for everything started to feel overwhelming. I worked harder to cover the bills, mortgage, and groceries, but instead of being grateful, I faced constant demands. Linda, my mother-in-law, was always around, her eyes full of greed. In her late 40s, she had strong opinions about how I should spend my money. She often reminded me of my responsibilities as a daughter-in-law. "You're doing so well, Anna," she'd say, pretending to be sweet. "Surely you can spare a little extra for family." The first time she asked for money, it was a few $100s for a luxury resort trip. Mark encouraged me to help her, saying it's just a little something to make her happy. I reluctantly agreed, thinking it wouldn't happen again. But I was wrong. Her requests only grew more ridiculous. One evening, she called me into the living room. "Anna, we need to talk," she said seriously. "I've been thinking about my wardrobe. It's looking shabby. I need $10,000 for a shopping spree. You can afford it." Her words left me stunned. My heart raced as I replied, trying to stay calm. "Linda, I'm already paying for everything. The mortgage, utilities, groceries. I can't keep giving you money for luxuries." Her expression darkened. "You think just because you earn a little money, you can ignore your responsibilities? This is your family too, Anna." Her words stung, but I couldn't hold back anymore. "Family? You mean the family that doesn't contribute anything?" I snapped, my patience running thin. I looked to Mark, expecting him to defend me. Instead, he stayed silent, his eyes avoiding mine. The betrayal cut deep. Linda's face turned red with anger. She stood up, shouting, "If you can't help, maybe you should leave this family." I fired back, "Maybe you should talk to Mark about contributing." My defiance seemed to push her over the edge. In her rage, she grabbed a baseball bat leaning against the wall. Before I could react, she swung it at me, hitting me in the face. Pain shot through my body as I stumbled back, clutching my cheek in shock. "Linda, what is wrong with you?" I gasped, tears streaming down my face. I turned to Mark, begging for his support, but he just stood there, frozen, watching it all like it was a TV show. My heart shattered. I realized I was completely alone. "You're ungrateful," Linda screamed, her voice echoing in the room. "You think you can take without giving anything back? You don't belong here." That was the breaking point. I couldn't believe I had let things go this far. That night, I packed my bags. I didn't care that Mark wasn't home. He had gone out with friends, leaving me to deal with everything alone. I gathered my belongings, determined to take my life back, even if it meant going back to my parents' house. As I drove away, tears poured down my face, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. It was like I had finally escaped from invisible chains. Still, beneath the relief was a simmering anger, a need to get revenge. Over the next few days at my parents' house, I thought carefully about what to do. I knew I had to file for divorce. I was done being controlled by Mark and his mother. I was tired of being treated like an ATM instead of a partner. I could imagine them trying to get me back, Mark with his fake promises to change, and Linda pretending nothing had happened. But I wasn't falling for it again. This time I had a plan. If they wanted me back, they would have to face the consequences. They wouldn't see it coming. The idea of getting the house transferred into my name kept playing in my mind. It felt risky, but I was done being the victim. As I planned my next move, I felt both nervous and excited. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to take back control of my life and rebuild my confidence. Little did I know, this was just the start of the battle. Days passed after I left, and the pain of what happened began to fade. In its place came a strong sense of determination. My parents were supportive, they gave me comfort, and reminded me that I deserved happiness. They saw the bruises, not just on my face, but in my spirit too. One evening, as I sat at the kitchen table at my parents' house, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen and saw Mark's name. My heart raced. I hadn't spoken to him since I left. I hesitated but answered, curiosity getting the better of me. Anna, Mark's voice sounded small and unsure. Can we talk? Talk! So you can convince me to come back, I said, trying to keep my anger under control. No, it's not like that, he replied quickly. I want to apologize. I didn't know what to do that night. Mom, his voice trailed off, sounding guilty. Really, Mark? You didn't know? You stood there and watched while she hit me. You didn't lift a finger to help, I snapped, feeling the anger rise in my chest. I'm sorry, he said weakly. I thought staying quiet would calm her down. Save it, Mark, I said sharply. I don't want to hear excuses. I'm done with this. I hung up, the familiar sting of betrayal washing over me again. In the days that followed, I felt a mix of emotions: anger, frustration, and a growing resolve. I reached out to a lawyer and started the process of filing for divorce. I wanted to ensure that I wouldn't be taken advantage of anymore. The lawyer walked me through the steps and advised me to gather financial documents and proof of my income. The thought of facing Mark and Linda again made my stomach churn, but I was ready to fight for my independence. That Friday, an unexpected visitor arrived at my parents' house. My mom came into the living room looking concerned. Anna, someone's here to see you, she said cautiously. My heart sank. I already knew who it was. When I opened the door, there stood Mark and Linda. They looked unusually quiet and subdued. Can we come in? Mark asked hesitantly, glancing at his mother, who wore a tight-lipped expression. I stepped aside, not because I wanted to, but because I was curious. They walked in, and the tension in the room was thick. What do you want? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Anna, we're here to talk about what happened, Mark began. Linda chimed in, her tone softer than usual, but still with a hint of manipulation. I've come to apologize too. I acted horribly, and I know I hurt you. We just want to work things out. Work things out? You mean keep taking advantage of me? I crossed my arms, leaning against the doorframe. We realize now that we were wrong, Linda said, forcing a smile. I shouldn't have thrown the bat. I was under a lot of stress. But we're family, and family supports each other. Support? I shot back, my anger boiling. You've done nothing but take from me. Family doesn't treat each other like this. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my decision. I'm not going back to that life. I'm filing for divorce. Mark's face shifted from confusion to panic. You don't have to do that, Anna. We can change. Just give me a chance. Change how? I asked, my voice firm. By you standing by while your mother bullies me. Please, just hear us out. We'll do better, Mark pleaded, desperation clear in his voice. Linda added, what do you want, Anna? Just name it, and we'll figure something out. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to lash out, but another part of me saw an opportunity. If you want me back, the house needs to be transferred into my name. That's the only way I'll even think about it. Silence filled the room. Mark and Linda exchanged a look, one of desperation and fear. Are you serious? Mark asked, disbelief in his voice. I've never been more serious, I replied, standing my ground. You either want me back or you don't. Linda's face twisted with anger, but I could also see fear in her eyes. You can't be serious, Anna. That's asking for too much. No, I said firmly. You've taken too much for too long. After what felt like an eternity. Mark sighed, defeated. Okay, we'll do it. We'll transfer the house to you. Just please, don't file for divorce. Linda didn't look happy, but she nodded reluctantly. Fine. Let's just get it over with. As they left, I felt a mix of triumph and unease. I had them where I wanted, but I knew this was just the beginning. The fight for my independence wasn't over, and I was ready to face whatever came next. The betrayal still weighed on me, but I was determined to come out stronger. With a new sense of purpose, I started preparing for the changes ahead, knowing that the final chapter of reclaiming my life was still to come. The thought of getting the house in my name was my chance to take back control of my life. This was my way to finally escape Mark and Linda's grip. The following week, Mark and Linda came back to my parents' house with legal documents. My heart pounded as I carefully looked over the papers. This was it, the moment I could finally turn the tables on them. "Here's the paperwork," Mark said, placing the documents on the table. His tone was serious, and his face showed a mix of hope and unease. "You just need to sign here, and the house will be yours." I picked up the pen and hesitated for a moment. Looking directly at Mark, I asked, "Do you realize what this means? This isn't just about the house. This is about me taking my life back." Linda's expression darkened and she stepped forward. "You're being foolish, Anna. You're throwing away your family for a house." I laughed bitterly. "Family? You've treated me like a bank, not like family. This is about my self-respect and freedom." With that, I signed the documents. A surge of adrenaline rushed through me as I felt the power shift. The house was now legally mine, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was taking control of my life. As soon as I finished signing, Mark's expression changed. His earlier desperation turned into something darker, almost threatening. "You think you can just walk away from us? You don't know what you're getting yourself into," he said, his voice low. "What's that supposed to mean?" I asked, alarmed. "Things are different now, Anna," Mark replied, a chilling smile creeping across his face. "You're making a big mistake." Linda, trying to regain control, added, "This isn't just about you anymore. We're family and you'll regret this." But I was done listening to their threats. Standing tall, I replied, "No, I won't. This is the last time you'll manipulate me." As they left, the tension in the air felt heavy. While I was relieved, I also felt uneasy. I knew the battle wasn't over. Over the next few days, I started to adjust to my new reality. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of freedom. However, I couldn't shake the anxiety that Mark and Linda would try to strike back. I filed for divorce, gathering my thoughts and evidence to prepare for what I knew would be a messy legal fight. They had controlled me for too long, and now it was my turn to take charge. I was ready for whatever games they might play. One evening, my phone rang unexpectedly. It was Mark. Taking a deep breath, I answered, ready for whatever he had to say. "Anna, we need to talk," he began. His usual confidence was gone, replaced by a quieter, more desperate tone. "What do you want, Mark?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "I don't think you understand the situation," he said. "Then explain it to me," I replied firmly. "I just think you should reconsider the divorce. This isn't just about the house. It's about our future together," he said, desperation creeping into his voice. "Our future?" I shot back. "You made your choice the moment you stood by while your mother abused me. There's no going back now." He tried again. "Linda is worried about you. She doesn't want to lose her family." "Family?" I said bitterly. "You mean the family that treated me like a bank? I'm done with all of that. I'm taking my life back." I hung up, but the anxiety lingered. That evening, I went for a walk to clear my head. As I strolled through the quiet neighborhood, I couldn't shake the feeling that Mark and Linda would try something drastic. Sure enough, the very next day, they showed up at my parents' house. "Anna!" Linda shouted as I opened the door. Her face was twisted with anger and desperation. "You can't just do this. You're making a terrible mistake." "Mistake?" I said, feeling a surge of defiance. "The mistake was letting you two control me for so long. I'm not going back to that life." Mark stepped forward, his expression serious. "You don't understand the consequences of what you're doing. You can't just walk away from us. From me. You have no idea what we're capable of." His words sent a chill down my spine, but I refused to let fear control me. "You underestimate me," I said, my voice steady. "I'm not afraid of you anymore." Linda's face twisted with rage. "You'll regret this, Anna. You think you've won, but this isn't over." I felt a shiver of unease but stood my ground. "No, it is over. I refuse to let you manipulate me any longer. I'll fight for my happiness, with or without you." As they stormed off, I knew the road ahead would be tough. But I also knew I had the strength to face it. The fight for my independence was far from over, but I was determined to win no matter what it took. With the house now mine and the divorce underway, I was ready to reclaim my life one step at a time. They left, but not before throwing more threats my way. I could feel the darkness surrounding them, but instead of fear, it fueled my determination to keep moving forward. I was done being their victim. A few weeks later, the court date for my divorce finally arrived. My heart pounded as I walked into the courtroom, ready to face the last chapter of this painful journey. I had prepared everything: texts, emails, and records showing all my financial contributions. I was ready to tell the judge the truth about what I had endured. Mark sat across from me, looking both defeated and dangerous. His mother sat behind him, her presence like a shadow of all the control and manipulation I had suffered for so long. But I wasn't afraid anymore. As the proceedings began, I felt a surprising sense of calm wash over me. This was my moment. I presented my case clearly, laying out every detail of the emotional and financial burden I had carried. I watched as Mark squirmed in his seat, his fake confidence starting to fall apart under the weight of the truth. His mother looked furious, but she couldn't say anything to stop what was happening. The judge listened carefully to both sides, their face serious and thoughtful. I could feel the mood in the room shift as my evidence told a real story, one that was louder and more truthful than any of their lies. Finally, the judge spoke. "Given the evidence presented and the circumstances of your marriage, I grant the divorce. Anna, you are entitled to retain the house and any financial assets accrued during your marriage." Relief swept over me like a wave. It was as if the heavy chains that had held me down for years had shattered all at once. I had done it. I was free. As I stepped out of the courthouse, I took a deep breath and let the fresh air fill my lungs. I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For the first time in years, I felt hope. I had taken back my independence, my dignity, and most importantly, my self-worth. The betrayal and manipulation I had experienced would no longer define me. They were part of my past, but they would not shape my future. I was ready to move on and embrace a life filled with new possibilities. The lessons I had learned through this ordeal would stay with me, guiding me as I stepped into a new chapter, one where I was finally in control of my own destiny.